The impact of Brexit on the house building sector remains to be seen. As long as there's a period of uncertainty, people are likely to put off the big decisions like house purchase, like thinking of taking on a major self-build project or an extension project. I suspect those that are already underway or very close to starting will just carry on with their plans regardless. So the impact is not likely to be felt for a year to 2 years. But until some clarity and some visibility is available for the direction the economy is going to take and the impact that Brexit will have on the wider economy and therefore on the housing market improves, then I think there will be this pause in which people just put off their major decisions. The impact of Brexit on construction costs will be immediate because a huge amount of British construction materials are imported from Europe and are therefore purchased in euros. The pound has devalued by 7 or 8% so far in the first couple of days post-Brexit. Those materials are inevitably going to cost about 7 or 8% more. If you then add in the cost of shipping them over to the UK from Europe, if the fuel is bought in the UK, then fuel prices have also gone up, and that will have an impact driving inflation on virtually everything we buy, from construction materials to fuel. So materials prices will increase inevitably post-Brexit, which will drive up construction costs. Labour costs will probably pause immediately because there'll be less demand for construction work if people put projects on pause. But longer term, if there are strict rules on immigration and if the points-based system or whatever system is introduced for immigration doesn't allow construction workers to come into this country, there won't be anybody to build anything, and labour prices will dramatically increase until the skills training or programme of apprenticeships steps up to train enough British workers to undertake the construction work that we need, certainly in the house building sector. I think the impact on the custom and self-build sector of Brexit in the short term will be some people will just sort of wait to see what happens, look for a bit of clarity on the direction post-Brexit, certainly until a new Prime Minister is appointed and we're given some idea of what Brexit Britain will look like. If it's a fairly minimal change, if we remain in the single market, if we retain freedom of movement, then I suspect things will stabilise relatively quickly. As long as we also retain passporting for financial services, things could settle down relatively quickly whilst they renegotiate some of the finer detail of EU legislation and perhaps negotiate to bring in a policy on immigration and on work permits. Longer term, the impact on construction will depend on attitudes towards work permits. And I would argue that there's already a huge skill shortage in the construction sector. We desperately need to introduce training and apprenticeships. Until we do that and until we increase the skill base, we still need to bring in construction work from Europe and elsewhere. And so I'd hope that any system of construction permits would allow those people to come to Britain to work. Otherwise, we just won't be able to build anything. Just 2 days after Brexit, we've been at the Southern Homebuilding and Renovating show where we've had thousands of people planning self-build and renovation projects. And it's interesting to gauge their attitude towards Brexit. And overwhelmingly, the attitude was, why would I change my long-term plans because of this? People seem to be pressing ahead regardless. Those who see their home as somewhere to live, as somewhere that's a long-term project and not a short-term investment, are just not taking into account the risk to house prices in the short term. And really that would be my advice for people considering a custom build, a self-build or a home improvement project. If you are looking to speculate and make a gain on property in order to work your way up the housing ladder, you might pause to wait to see which way Brexit goes and look for a little bit more visibility on the direction of the economy and the housing market. Who knows, house prices may stay flat, they may fall slightly depending really on the economy, on how the economy pans out, but also on interest rate policy and whether or not interest rates have to increase to defend the pound or to fight inflation. But for those of you who are planning a project because it's your long-term home, I think short-term fluctuations in house prices are probably a secondary consideration. You're only here once after all, so having the right house and somewhere to live that you really want to live in should come first and foremost over any short-term gain.